Good evening yet again, everyone. For those of you who don't yet know me, I hope this evening can be a time where I can get to know you. My name is Tyagi Dharana. I'm one of the acharyas within Ananda. I live at Ananda Kriya Yoga Ashram. It's on the way to Lavasa, a very beautiful place. If you haven't been there yet, I hope you'll come and check it out. I don't have the privilege of coming here very often, unfortunately, but tonight is one of those privileges. And this satsang will be on the topic of the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a beautiful book that Swami Ananda wrote with some of the most detailed commentary on the Bhagavad Gita that I've ever seen. There we go. So this is from chapter 3, verse 1. Arjuna said, O Janardana, Krishna, the divine liberator, if, as it seems, you consider understanding superior to action, why, O Keshava, have you been urging me to this terrible action? This apparent contradiction confuses me. Please tell me clearly, which path will help me toward the highest good? Then in the commentary on this, there's 4 pages of commentary, and I'm not going to read the whole 4 pages to you. I think that would not be, well, you can read it yourself, and I recommend you do. There's a lot in it. But I wanted to pull out some highlights. One of them is Arjuna, this is Swamiji paraphrasing. Arjuna says, I am torn between the 2 duties you've given me. On the one hand, you tell me to become absorbed in the stillness of spirit. On the other hand, you say I must fight against my natural foes, my evil tendencies, both for my own good and for the benefit of others. Why can't I simply rest calmly and joyfully in the Supreme Self, as you've also enjoined? So this is, in a way, a classic dilemma for the devotee. There are people who say that, we should be serving all the time, and others who say that we should be meditating all the time and in divine joy all the time. And in a way, they're both right. There's another beautiful book called Rays of the One Light, and one of the passages in that book is about a conflict between 2 disciples of Jesus. One of them was named Martha, and one of them was named Mary. And I believe they were sisters. And Mary was meditating at the feet of Jesus Christ, and Martha was busy in the kitchen. And then she noticed that Mary was meditating at the feet of Christ, and I think she got a little annoyed that her sister wasn't helping her with all that needed to be done in the kitchen, and so she complained. And in part of the commentary on that passage, Swamiji makes the point, it wasn't work versus contemplation, but restless preoccupation versus peaceful absorption under all circumstances. Let me read that again. It wasn't work versus contemplation, but restless preoccupation. In other words, Martha, in being busy in the kitchen, was restlessly busy. And she was starting to fret about, why isn't my sister helping me? And she was not in a very uplifted state of mind. Whereas Mary was peacefully absorbed. In that moment, at least, she was focused on being peacefully absorbed in the consciousness of her guru, trying to absorb herself in those vibrations of her guru. And it's not as though we don't need to work. We do need to work. some of us need to work a lot. I'm one of them. Those of us at our retreat center have a lot to do. I mean, we're understaffed. There's a lot to do. We're very grateful that we're getting more and more guests coming, discovering, and having a good time. But there's a lot to do to make sure that everything goes reasonably well for all those guests. What's the schedule going to be like, and what shall we say to them, and how do we prepare it, what kind of handouts should we give? And there's a lot of details. So there's this is a comment from one of our other senior teachers, and what the first teacher I met when I came to Ananda. Her name was Nayaswami Asha, and she comments that the reason we're put in situations where a great deal needs to be done is that we need to do them. In other words, if we have a lot of work in front of us, it's because that's karmically right for us. And thinking about it, I know that I'm not at a state where I can be meditating 18 hours a day. I have to be honest with myself. I'm just not there yet. And so in order to be spiritually progressing, I need to be serving. It's not as though I don't also need to be meditating. Meditation is also very important. In fact, I asked Swamiji a question once at a satsang. There was a comment that Yogananda made to him about your work is, I'm not remembering the words exactly, but he put meditation, intense activity and meditation. And he put meditation second. And I asked, well, I know Yogananda through you, so does that mean the same thing applies to me? And because I was asking for myself, I think Swami Kriyananda gave much more of an emphasis that no, I think he said, I hope not, and that no, we should cling to meditation. He emphasized meditation. That's what I'm remembering in the moment. I don't remember the exact words, but emphasizing meditation. But also, yes, we still need to serve. So to finish what Nayaswami Asha was saying, the reason we're put in situations where a great deal needs to be done is that we need to do them. It's our work to do. If it's in front of us like that, it's ours to do. We can't run away from it. And that kind of selfless service is a lot of the answer of how we redirect the energy. And there's another beautiful image that Swami Kriyananda brings out in this reading from the Gita. He emphasizes that spiritual progress is achieved not by tense effort which might be demanded for material success, but rather by a process of upward relaxation. Spiritual progress may be compared to a rising helium balloon. Its ascent is natural and can be prevented only by ropes or by heavy ballast. Devotion and divine aspiration lift the consciousness toward its source in God. Worldly desires and attachments and the habit of directing one's energy flow outward are the ropes and ballast that resist the upwardness of soul aspiration. This, I find this image a very useful one. And it brings me back to a memory of when I was a child. My brother and I used to like to go to town with our mom. We would go shopping, and there was a big store, and they sold balloons at this store. And my brother and I got into the habit of buying these helium balloons at the store, and the bigger the better. And then we would bring them home, and we would start taking paper clips and other little odds and ends. And lastly, a little bit of paper. And if you just got the balance just right, then the balloon would neither float upwards nor downwards. It would just hover there in the middle of the room. And we used to watch it hovering and blow on it and blow it from one room to another room and sort of fan it a little bit. And after a while, because the helium was very slowly leaking out of the pores of the balloon, it would gradually be weighted down. And so we'd rip a tiny little fragment of the paper off and get it to a neutral buoyancy again. And this is a nice metaphor for where we are in our level of consciousness. There's another very short quote from Gyanamata, if I can find it. There we go. So Gyanamata was the most advanced woman disciple of Yogananda. And I'm trying to schedule a weekend focused on her and her teachings because she's so full of wisdom. She had practical wisdom, and she expressed it so very, very clearly. One thing she said was, I maintain that holding my own consciousness on a high plane is of the first importance. If I take care of that, everything else will eventually come into line. So if our consciousness is uplifted, then we're more in solution consciousness. If our consciousness is in a bad mood or looking at all these problems, then we're more in problem consciousness. We're not seeing solutions. We might be in a bad mood. We might be. There's a lot of things that can go wrong once we start going into negativity and egoism. Negative thoughts have their own magnetism, and it's so easy to get caught up in them. Oh, I need to worry about this. I need to worry about, America's in the hands of a madman, and I think he is a little bit crazy. And it's like, should I worry about that? No, not my job to worry about that. There's an example. Swami Kriyananda was in a negative mood. When we're in a negative mood, it's like our reason follows feeling. And so when we're feeling like something is so-and-so, then all our mind comes with up with all these reasons. So one time Swami Kriyananda was he was just missing his guru. He wanted to be near his guru, and so he was in charge of the monks at the time, and there was one little job that needed to be done, and it was to take I think it was a 5-gallon thing of water. I don't think they had plastic jugs in those days. I don't know what the jug was made of, but he took like a 5-gallon jug of water and took it upstairs, and Yogananda was dictating something in another room, dictating a letter, and Swami Kriyananda made a point of, he had to get the water out of the container into this dispenser or something, and he made a point of doing it as loudly as he could to try to get Yogananda's attention. It's like, oh, Swami Kriyananda's out there. I mean, in those days, and in fact, Yogananda called Swamiji Walter. His last name was Walters, called him Walter. Yogananda never explained, and Swamiji never asked. But, oh, Walter, there you are. Come in. Let me give you some energy. Let me tell but none of that. And then when Yogananda didn't respond in any way, but just remained focused on dictating whatever he was doing and so on, then Swami Kriyananda started going through all these negative thoughts of he probably thinks I'm a worthless disciple, and that's why he doesn't want to have anything to do with that worthless Walter, and all these negative thoughts. And he realized, I'm not enjoying these negative thoughts. And he called together sort of a meeting of all his mental citizens. In the Gita, it's an allegory between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And the interesting thing is that all of those characters in the Gita are like representative of our mental citizens. And so Swamiji called a conference of all these mental citizens and said, are you happy? And they said, no, we're miserable. I mean, they were finding all these reasons to be, why Yogananda didn't love him, and, all these negative things. And so Swamiji asked the question, well, mental citizens, what shall we do about this? And he got the idea of focusing here, concentrating here, and deeply concentrating here. I mean, he went somewhere else, and I've heard that he did a few kriyas at this point, not just concentrating here. For those of you who have the kriyas and can use them in moments like this, all the better. You're better prepared. For those of you who don't yet, you can at least concentrate here. Bring your energy here, rub your forehead, stick Scotch tape on your forehead or a bindi or whatever you want. Just concentrate there with all your willpower, and that will bring your energy upward. It's that simple. And Swamiji said that after just 5 minutes of that simple technique, suddenly he was in an uplifted frame of consciousness. Suddenly, the same mind that was giving him all the reasons why Yogananda didn't want to see or acknowledge that stupid disciple, that worthless disciple, now he's finding all these reasons why Yogananda had a lot of work, a lot of disciples to look after. And he was clearly, giving one disciple some energy that disciple needed through a letter or whatever, and probably that disciple needed a lot more energy than I need. I at least get to live with my guru. All these reasons. So if we can do something in the moments where first we have to become aware that our consciousness is a little weightier than we would like. So we need to uplift our consciousness somehow. And we can uplift our consciousness through divine aspiration, emphasizing aspiration, emphasizing meditation, emphasizing positive things, maybe put on an uplifting piece of music, just something to uplift your consciousness. We've got a lot of tools on the path. It's a great blessing. Just find one of them that is the most powerful that you can apply in that moment, and go with it. Allow it to uplift your consciousness, and also not only focus your mind on the positive, but also pull your mind away from the negative. Pull your mind away from worrying about that crazy fellow in charge of the country now, or anything else that is distracting you from the divine. Couple more thoughts. I know we're running out of time. This is another beautiful phrase from this particular 4 pages in the Gita. The need is not so much to develop love for God as to receive His love. To recognize love and joy as supremely relishable and as, therefore, the only thing in life worth having. That, to me, is very, very encouraging, because I grew up in America as an overly intellectual, scientific kind of guy, and I was hardly ever in my heart. And a lot of people wanted to show me, well, here's how you can do this, and here's how you can learn that. And it's like our educations give us a lot of useful knowledge, but it's weighty knowledge. It's not uplifting knowledge. There's a song where it's Philosopher and the Boatman. And one of the lines at the end is, all that weighty knowledge inside his head gave him weight, you see, and he sank. There was a storm that came along, and he couldn't swim, and he was too heavy with all that heavy stuff in his head, so he sank. So we want to be light. We want to be buoyant. We want to be so buoyant that we can soar over our problems, like one of those beautiful balloon rides. And we can. It's possible. Another aspect towards the end of this, we need to be working hand in hand with God. Yogananda told a story of a master who said to a disciple, "You should eat and you should not eat." And the master was very puzzled by that advice. And so he said, there's a contradiction there. And the guru explained, in other words, you should feed your body healthfully to keep it alive and well, but you must resist the thought born of ego that I am eating. Tell yourself rather, God is eating through me. In everything that we do, we should be thinking that, oh, it's God doing this through me. And that has been easy to do when it's something trivial like washing the dishes, or something that I can do with my hands, something but things that are more mentally involved, I've had a greater struggle with. But I find that if I pray before I do these things, I will reason, I will act, but guide thou my reason, will, and activity to do the right thing. Just pray for God's consciousness to be acting through me, to uplift my surroundings. I know that nobody else comes into my room, but somehow my desk magnetizes clutter. I must be the one who does it. But if I can clear off that clutter, and straighten things out, and just put on some uplifting classical music, Swami's music, and then try to work. And try to work with an uplifted consciousness, then there's times where Swamiji has another phrase that efforts end in ease. He was quoting Yogananda. Efforts end in ease. And I found that if I'm really in attunement, there is a place where it's just easy. It's like my thoughts are guided somehow. This is possible. I wanted to also let Yogananda tell a story that's very related. We don't have that many recordings of him, but this is one where he actually says something on topic. So let me... This is on.
There was a great saint. His name was Vyasa. He was the writer of the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu Bible. And he was sitting by the river Jamuna. And the disciples of Krishna, the greatest prophet of India, they were carrying some cheese. Krishna loved cottage cheese, but he lived on the other side of the river Jamuna. And Jamuna was in flood and all the boats were sunk. So they very much felt for their master, and they saw Vyasa was in samadhi, he was in ecstasy with God. And they sat around Vyasa, and Vyasa woke up and he said, "What can I do for you?" They said, "Krishna is on the other side and we want to get this cheese to him. The master has not eaten and the Jamuna is flooded and we have no boats. Could you tell some way how we can get there?" He said, well, you think of Krishna, what about me? I have to eat something." Vyasa was also a great student of Krishna. They couldn't understand how he dared to eat before the master. He says, yes, without myself eating something, I can't do anything. So he ate all the cheese that he could. Then he stands by the river and says, "Oh river Jamuna, if I have not eaten anything, divide up and part." Jamuna parted. Then the students of Krishna said, "He ate the cheese in front of us and says, Jamuna, if I didn't eat anything, divide up and part." And the Jamuna away. They couldn't understand. They hurriedly passed through. And when they went on the other side and near the camp of Krishna, Krishna used to always in greatest joy meet them. He was sound asleep and his little tummy seemed to be filled. So they woke him up and said, Master, your cheese is here." Oh, he got up and I'm sleepy. The Master, "Aren't you interested in cheese today?" "Oh no," he says. "The other fellow sitting on the other side of the river fed me too much." They didn't know when he was eating, he was only giving it to Krishna. So he who has given us this joy, think of him. Whatever you do, give it to him. Do that, and you will find him all the time with you.
So, whatever you do, give it to him. This is very simple advice. Very simple advice. It's the spiritual path is not that complicated, really. It's quite simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. It can be quite challenging. I want to end with a last reading from the from Whispers from Eternity. "Teach us to consider no work more important than thy work. O Spirit, as no work is possible without borrowing from thee the power to perform it, so teach us to consider no work greater than thy spiritual work. Teach us to feel that since no duty is possible without thee, so no duty is more important than our duty to thee. And teach us to love thee above everything, for we cannot live or love anything or anybody without thy life and thy love." Om.